Okay. Is this thing on? Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are back. It is a Military Monday here on Pickup Lines presented by Gamez Law Firm. Actually, you know what? Hold that thought. See, AB, it looks like I haven't done this ever, but believe it or not, here I am. I'm going to get this right. You got to love live TV. I blame the weather. This is Pickup Lines presented by Gamez Law Firm and Integrity Roofing and Siding. We are inside. This is still the same car. This is a Lexus RZ 450e provided by or sponsored by North Park Lexus of San Antonio, North Park Lexus at Dominion. And yes, I have added a little more light for our guest here, retired Rear Admiral A B Cruz III. Thank you for being here on this Military Monday.
Glad to be here.
I had to step up the lighting game a little bit because, yes, I think most everybody watching this probably just got a significant storm wherever they are, and you did okay in the weather?
Yeah, I think we made it through.
Okay, but it's still obviously very overcast. I've even got the roof on and everything, but hey, we're gonna push forward and move on here. So this is a conversation I've been wanting to have for a while, and I'm just thrilled that you're here. So AB. I mean, as long as I've known you, it's always been A B Cruz or ABC or your initials. That's pretty cool.
It is.
AB stands for
Anatolio Benedicto.
It sounds like you could be Pope.
Well,
that sounds like
I wish.
I just heard that, and I think that's got a papal ring to it.
It does. Well, I kind of like the shorter version.
AB Cruz. Okay, yes, and Anatolio. When is the last time anybody called you Anatolio?
Probably my mom, and it could have been as recent as this week or last week when she was not pleased with me.
I was going to say you weren't. It's like when I was Ernesto. You only hear Ernesto when it's not good.
That's right.
So, but A.B. Cruz is great. We were just talking here because you spent decades in the military in the United States Navy, and if I read, you've been retired now for I guess over a decade now, right?
It's hard to believe, but that's right. I mean, the years have flown by. 37 years in uniform, and I think the quickest years have been the last 10 since I retired.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Did the service, because when I was talking to John McFadden the other day, who served a number of years in the Air Force, he said that was the quickest 22 years that he could remember, but you're saying maybe the years post-military life were quicker.
Well, because I've stayed so busy with so many things. And I think, now that I think back on my military career, I'm starting to think back at all the things that I was able to do. Mm-hmm. With all the people I was able to do it with. And those memories there's a lot of memories, in those 37 years.
You were in the Navy, and again, I'm coming from someone who has not served. I don't come from a military family, so I would imagine you spent a lot of time on ships all over the world. And I wonder what that life was like and how much you miss that or reflect back on those times.
Well, the funny thing about my career is that I spent very little time on big ships. In fact, I was only assigned to one ship right out of the Naval Academy. My career progressed, and it kind of went in a different direction, where I went into special operations and special warfare, specializing in small boats, kind of riverine type boats, small boats, inshore boats. So, yeah, while I've been on many large ships for short visits, I was only assigned to one. And bear in mind that I was a reservist. I was active duty for 7 years, and the remainder of those 26 some odd years was spent in the reserve. So,
but you've done so many things. I mean, practicing law, and we'll get to all that here in just a little bit because I read the bio and it's quite impressive. And I know you've spent a majority of your life, I believe, here in San Antonio, but you were not born here.
That's right. My family moved down here when I was in 2nd or 3rd grade. So I was 7 or 8 years old when I moved to San Antonio. We had moved from Edmonton, Alberta, of all places.
Canada?
Yeah. My parents immigrated to this country in 1956 from the Philippines. My dad trained in the medical field. And then after I was born and my younger brother was born, we had to move back. My parents had to move back to the Philippines. And then they had already determined they wanted to get back into the United States. So our family found its way back to the United States via Canada. So my dad took a job probably below his talents to get ever closer to the United States. But in 1956, I think it was, they finally, that's when we moved to San Antonio in 1966.
Right. And was Would you come from a military family, or was the military always going to be a path for you?
Well, our granddad was in the military, in the Philippine military, but he also worked very closely during World War II with the United States Army.
Got it.
And in fact, at one point, he was stationed at Walter Reed. He was a medical doctor. And so the military was always there. My dad, well, he studied medicine. He was in the ROTC program at the University of the Philippines. So he was very much militarily oriented.
Right.
And when we moved to this country, one of the things that our father always said is, serve, give back to this country. And, certainly one of the ways to do that is through military service.
So you mentioned your brother. You have a sister as well. How many kids are there?
There's a total of 4 originally. My brother passed away a few years back. I have an older sister who you know.
Right.
Raquel. Raquel, or Rocky Bono. And
right.
she also went into the Navy and retired as an admiral as well.
So when I first met you guys, this has been a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, one of the first things I learned was, when I met your sister as well, is technically she outranks you.
That's right. While I put the Admiral flag on first,
right.
She followed, and she went a little further than I did in the medical field.
Right.
I like to make the distinction between a warfighter and a medical person, but yes, technically, Rocky Bono outranks me. And then I don't want to forget our youngest sister, Roselle, or Pinky, lives in town and has always been in town here in San Antonio. And
you went to Antonian High School.
Yeah.
What were those? I'm a product of private school, a smaller high school in Victoria. But how much? I know you're a huge advocate for that. How do you reflect back on your high school days, and what were you doing back then, like extracurricular and stuff like that?
Well, back then it was an all-boys school. Antonian College Preparatory School for Boys is the full name. I tell you what, our class, as it turns out, we had maybe 81 graduates. We were tight back then, and we're tight today.
Mm-hmm.
There's about 20 or 30 of us who have stayed in touch over the many years. What I did back then, I was, a good student. I played tennis, and I'm an all-state tennis player. I was a recruited tennis player, so I got to visit a lot of schools to, perhaps play tennis there, and turned out the Naval Academy is one of those schools. In fact, it was the last school recruiting trip I went on, and I selected the Naval Academy.
To go play tennis?
Yeah.
Okay, I did not know.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, how good were you? Could you have gone on to,
No, I knew.
U.S. Open champion, A B Cruz, or, Wimbledon champ?
I knew early on that maybe I could play college tennis.
Yeah.
But I knew that I better seek other areas and excel in other areas, because I knew that although I played a little beyond college, I didn't, I wasn't going to make a career out of that.
But that's why you're in such great shape. As long as I've known you, you've always been
Well, that's, it's
part
of the daily. It's part of the daily routine.
I get it. So you went off to the military. I know you have multiple degrees and everything, but you've dabbled in. We've had this conversation before, where me coming from a TV background, was it Scripps? Scripps Networks, which they own TV stations among other things. I think they did the spelling bee at one point, the Scripps Howard spelling bee. But you dabbled in that entertainment TV business.
I did.
On the legal side, right?
On the legal / corporate side. So, as I mentioned earlier, I was a reservist in the Navy, and so I had a whole other career. And so I got my business degree in marketing, and then I went to law school. From there, I worked at 4 law firms. And then after that, I got recruited in-house, first at Black Entertainment Television.
BET.
Yeah. And I was the deputy general counsel. I ran the legal floor there. And then
So what year is that?
That was 1999-ish.
Okay.
And then I led the deal team that merged BET with Viacom. And so I stayed with Viacom for a few years, but then I started getting recruited to be the chief legal officer for another media company that you knew, the EW Scripps
EW
company.
Scripps, right.
It had TV stations, it had newspapers, and it had cable networks. And then in 2008, we split that company, and I went with the Scripps networks, and that was HGTV, Food Network, Travel Channel, you know.
This is pre-streaming. Like, Netflix was maybe like an idea.
It was, you know, and we knew it then that while we had a good business going on, we were going to have to follow eyeballs, you know,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Consumer eyeballs, wherever they wanted to pick up our programming. So we were doing that transformation. And then from there, I ended up working in several other industries, the biotech industry, and then the financial services industry. So I've had a very interesting career across a lot of different highly regulated industries.
Yeah. So getting back to like BET late 90s, I'm guessing, and I don't know if you're able to name drop, but you came into contact with some celebrities.
Quite a number of them. In fact, because of my military experience, I was also in charge of security for our major events at Black Entertainment Television.
Yes.
So the annual award show in a couple of years it was in Vegas, and then after that it was in California, and those were live shows, and we had interesting collection of people, both performers and people that hang around performers. So P. Diddy, Snoop, Suge Knight, that was all part of my world from a security standpoint.
But are you handling their legal affairs as well?
Yeah, I was. Like I said, I was managing the day-to-day on the legal floor. But Bob Johnson and Deborah Lee and Byron Marchand, who were my, the CEO and the president and the chief legal officer, put me in charge of security for their major events. And so, but I got to meet wonderful people as well. I mean,
right.
Stevie Wonder, quite a number of.
There has to be a moment or two or 10 where you're I don't know, singing with Stevie Wonder, or you're hanging out with Mariah Carey, or whoever that is. I mean, there has to have been, that has to have happened, right?
Oh yeah, I had to on a couple occasions, walk up to their dressing rooms.
Yeah.
Mariah Carey's for one, to get her ready to go on stage. The interesting thing with Stevie Wonder was I was talking to his brother, who was his manager, and we were on stage. And Stevie Wonder was just practicing on his keyboard, and I was leaning up against his keyboard, and that was a really amazing, surreal moment for me.
Right.
And then I got to escort Halle Berry up the red carpet.
What a terrible job that is.
It was tough, but that's a side of me that a lot of people don't.
So you had
know.
the let me guess, like the mock turtleneck and the blazer and the earpiece.
Yes, with the microphone at the wrist.
Oh my gosh.
Those were the fun, exciting days.
Are there has all of the photo and video evidence been destroyed, or is it still
No,
around?
apparently, it's media entertainment.
Look it up on the internet. Okay.
It's all
I'm going to go back and look at, the 2000 Academy Awards or the BET Awards, and I bet you're on the red carpet there somewhere.
Well, remember the time when there was an instant where Suge Knight and his people kind of crashed the main floor, and of course it's a live show, and
right.
And you can see how the cameras end up panning real close to Steve Harvey and Cedric the Entertainer, because there's people going crazy because Suge Knight and his posse are coming down to the main floor, and they were not supposed to do that.
This is like the Kings of Comedy type, I would think, when Steve Harvey was at Cedric the Entertainer. I remember there was Bernie Mac.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And my job at that time was to, my security detail was really focused on Deborah Lee, who was the president, and
right.
she was sitting in the very front row, and so my job was to,
And then Bob Johnson founded the company, right?
That's right.
He's a billionaire, and didn't he go on to buy the Charlotte? He bought like an NBA team, I think.
He did. He got into sports and hospitality, resort hotels and so forth, and he was a true entrepreneur, or is. And he would go away for a weekend, come back on Monday with all kinds of ideas, and our job was to sift through those and figure out which one we should try.
Right.
Quite a success story.
Unbelievable. Okay, well, you haven't done so bad yourself. This is Admiral A B Cruz here with us here on the program. On this, I call it a Military Monday, something I'm doing here on Pickup Lines, because, as I've said, it's Military City, USA, and I want to do I want to do more content with, and just talk about some of these amazing stories here. I had read where you were in a part of your life, or wanting to come back to San Antonio, and you got a call from USAA.
That's right.
And I don't think you even applied for a position there, or maybe I don't even know that you were looking. But
I wasn't.
they called you, and you took that call, and then you went to work for them.
It was 2016. My wife and 2 kids, we were enjoying life in Bethesda, Maryland. Kids were thriving in grade school at the time. I had a good job as a chief legal officer for a biotech company, where we have our dream house right next to the Congressional Country Club, and so
I know you golf, so
yeah,
yes.
we were fat, dumb, and happy, so to speak. And then out of the blue, USA called, and that's a company that I grew up with here in San Antonio.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things where I wasn't looking for a job, and it fell into our lap. And at the time, both my parents were alive. My mom's still with us, but I lost Dad last year.
Right.
But it was one of those things where, even when I told my wife Jill, she said, "That's one move I'll make." And so, it was the right move. I moved down here in 2016, started with USAA, and then my family, once the kids finished school, joined me in 2017.
Yeah.
And, it was shortly thereafter that my dad had a health incident that
Right.
That really showed me that it was
Because he was here?
he was here.
Yeah,
It was kind of divine intervention, if you will,
Right.
In us moving here, because then we could help out, and we could be closer, and our kids could get to know my parents better.
Yeah. Well, it's cool that he lived long enough to see you do so many amazing things and watch your kids grow up. I mean, for a while and everything. So that's a blessing.
Absolutely.
By the way, your wife, I mean, I don't have to tell you this. She could do her own episode, by the way, because Dr. Jill, as I call her, I mean, she is all impressive all on her own.
I'll say it right up front, Ernie. I married way up. And,
Hey, so did I.
Yeah, well, I know you did.
Yes, you did.
I know that. That's what we share in common.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a most amazing wife. And, she's someone, for instance, who got her PhD while I was all over the world doing military duty or corporate duty somewhere. She had 2 little kids at home, and she got her PhD during that time without any sort of help.
Well, I said this a couple of times leading up to Fiesta when we were doing events with military, that I maybe I'm wrong. I feel like the spouses and the kids don't get enough credit sometimes, because it's one thing to hold down a household and keep it together while the spouse is away on assignment or whatever military-wise, but to get a PhD?
Yeah, and not only that, she does a lot of research. As you know, she does a lot of writing.
Yes.
She's published many times over, and she's going to be about to be published again, and she's working on a book.
Right.
And again, still caring for us, caring for the kids, and so she's the mainstay at this household. Yeah,
well, I'm not gonna get any disagreement from me on that. But I just don't, full disclosure, so people know, because I know she helped me out, while I was transitioning out of TV with, I guess, life coaching, and she does, among many other things, but just coaching people up and helping them with their professional life and just being better people.
Yeah. So in one of my capacities, I am, quote, a coach for senior executives and for boards. Dr. Jill is the real coach. She's certified. She's, she has helped so many mid-level and senior executives, especially in the legal community, because that's really her market. She knows it well, even though she's not an attorney. She spent a lot of time working at law firms. In fact, I met her at a law firm.
But what a valuable asset to have in your own house when you're just trying to tackle complex problems or do with it. What a great person to bounce ideas off of.
Yeah, I think she would love for us to go into business together. But I would pale in comparison to the big shadow that she casts, because she is quite the coach, quite the, if you have organization design issues, if you have personnel issues, if you just want to get ahead, or you want to transition to a new industry or to a new job, Jill's the person to go to.
Okay, there you go. See?
Yeah.
Happy spouse, happy house, I say as well, too. So.
Indeed.
There you go. We weren't born yesterday, ladies and gentlemen. No, we know what we're doing here. A few more minutes with Admiral A B Cruz, Military City, USA. I know there's a lot of Air Force here, obviously, but Navy, we give the Navy some love as much as we can.
Well, I'm glad. So I grew up. It was mostly an Air Force and Army town. Of course, I went.
Army, of course. Yes.
Yeah, and so that's why I had to wear my Navy here.
Got to represent.
Got to represent. But I'm happy to report that over the years, most recent years, there's been an uptick in Navy presence here because of the medical community.
You're right.
And I think crypto and intel. And so there are some schoolings down here, and so it's nice to move around this city and to see the Navy uniforms that I'm so used to.
Yeah, but we were talking before we came on the air. You're retired officially, but I'd imagine your phone rings I'm surprised your phone hasn't rang since we've been talking. People asking you to do things. You serve on a lot of boards. I know you've got a very giving heart, and you and I have this in common. We do not like to tell people no.
Yeah, it's an affliction that is worked to our benefit, but also
our detriment sometimes.
It takes up bandwidth. But I enjoy it. So when I decided to retire from my last 9-to-5 job,
right,
I did something very intentional. I said, I want to go on boards. I'm going to pick 3 local nonprofit boards, and then 3 national nonprofit boards, all of whom I had been talking to. Mm-hmm. And I joined those boards, and I think for the most part, I'm still serving on those very boards. But then I've expanded since then, and I do some for profit. I serve as a strategic or senior advisor for several companies. So yeah, I stay very, very active, and I think that's the way I'm kind of built, and I like that.
Oh. And the golf game is still on point?
Yeah, so you have to be intentional about that. Golf is not one thing where you can just wish that you're going to play or hope that you're going to play once a week. You've got to put it on your calendar.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to be better at it. I mean, I've been an athlete pretty much all my life. I have a shoulder issue that keeps me from playing tennis, and I needed to have an outlet.
Something.
So, yeah, I'm playing as much golf as I can.
Right. So if I needed to negotiate a multi-million-dollar media deal to take pickup lines national, whatever, I mean, like, you can still do all that, and you...
Oh, this isn't national?
Well, not yet. We're still working on it. And maybe after this episode, it will be. If Mariah Carey or somebody sees this,
that's right.
or Bob Johnson, for what, hello? Yeah. No, but you still, that's like riding a bicycle, right? You could just still do all that stuff.
And that's why I'm a strategic advisor
There
for several companies, because it's all about, growing a business. And for me, getting involved in a business that, a mission that resonates with me personally.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So I don't expect you to divulge any big legal secrets or anything, but is there a project or a product on the market right now, or something significant in recent years that happened in the world of entertainment, or something that you had a hand in one way or the other?
Well, gosh, that's, I'm many years removed from that industry. I will tell you that I am involved in a couple of companies that where AI technology is a big key component.
Yeah.
So I chair one particular company that's that hopefully, fingers crossed, will bring AI to some medical wearable devices that will be advantageous not only for the patient but the caretakers, doctors, pharmacists, and so forth. It's really, AI will help us bring that together in a way that's quite meaningful, or at least that's the hope. So, yeah, I got involved in that simply because, really on the heels of my dad passing away and going through some medical issues, I said there's got to be a better way, especially when it comes to being able to monitor the people we care about and providing them home health care. So those are the 2 areas that I chose for that reason to become involved and hopefully, take these startups into something, good.
And AI is coming, whether you embrace it or like it or not. I mean,
it's surrounding us, and it's really about, or at least in my mind, making sure it's being used for the right reasons, good purposes, and not for evil.
Well, it's just like social media in a lot of ways. I mean, it can be amazing, but it can also be terrible sometimes if people don't use it the right way. So, All right, very good. I was going to ask you what else you have going on, but I'm exhausted just listening to all the things you've already said. Because I know you're active in Fiesta too. You became a Rafael Consejo member not too long ago, which we just finished the Fiesta season, if you will. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad to join you and others. After being on the court as Prime Minister for Augie Cortez, Rafael 73.
Yeah.
After Fiesta, it just kind of went dead. Now it's like, wait a minute, the mission is still important,
right?
Scholarships for worthy high school students that are looking to go on beyond high school, and so I said, well, how can I do that? Well, it was pretty obvious. The Rafael Consejo organization was the way to go, and I was fortunate enough and honored enough to be let in.
That was a first ballot. No, that's a no-brainer. I mean, that's a no-brainer to have you, and we're thrilled to have you on. And so now that we've got all the confetti out of our hair and everything, we can get on with the rest of the business, and then it'll be back before you know it. So very good. Well, I know you're super busy, and this is a conversation I wanted to have for a long time. I just think so highly of you, and we've already talked about Jill and everything, but I appreciate you carving out some time for me today.
Absolutely. This is fun. I've been watching Pickup
Thank
Lines.
You've been very supportive.
I said, I wonder when Ernie's ever going to invite me into his car so we can have
a
conversation.
I wish we had more of a Chamber of Commerce weather for you here and everything, but
it's okay. We need the rain.
No, amen to that. As a matter of fact, I got yard work to do now once all this dries up. So there you have it, the great Admiral A B Cruz
Thank you,
III.
Thank you very much.
Great to see you again, sir. All right, there you have another episode of Pickup Lines presented by Gamez Law Firm, Integrity Roofing and Siding, and the Sabinal Group, which we announced last week. So thank you to all of them. We'll be back very soon with another episode right here. Sun, rain, wind, snow, or hail. We'll continue on one way or the other. So bye for now. Have a great day.